Well, that's kind of a giveaway as to what movie we're starting off with today, which, of course, is an Oscar Isaac movie.
True.
Wouldn't you say? Yeah.
And we were saying before the show that we love Oscar Isaac because we know that unlike Harrison Ford, who after Star Wars only did big tentpole films and movies that met his quote, Oscar Isaac will continue to do good movies, little movies, movies that that are small, that sort of attract him based on character and director he's working with. And so that's why we love Oscar Isaac, and we loved him in Star Wars.
Which is why we're also talking about him in Mojave today.
Well, you got to start somewhere, and they can't all be gems.
No, but Mojave's not bad.
We're not talking about Mojave now.
Not now.
No.
But no.
Possibly not ever, but definitely not now. You gave us the music, you gave us the Oscar Isaac, and you can talk about Mojave. Who gives a crap?
Well, it's got Oscar Isaac in it.
That's great.
Anything he says is good.
We were actually watching the Blu-ray
just before the show.
We were, and it's beautiful. It's look, Disney knows that this
black.
Had better be.
They went. It's not even regular. It's not blue plastic for the keep case. It's black.
Well,
like they have for the 4K stuff. But even though it's not 4K, they don't care. They're Star Wars, so we can go black, and we can do like the black card. The credit cards that are all black because they've run.
Why are you talking about the packaging and not talking about the film?
Okay, let's
the transfer,
talk about
the extras, the audio, and everything else people care about.
Have at it. I will say this. Watching it on Blu-ray is interesting because you realize how much of the film is engineered toward the audience experience. And this is something we might want to talk about with Screening Room, okay, which has been a bit of a big deal these past few weeks. I don't know if we've sort of let everybody in on Screening Room, but Screening Room has created a real schism in Hollywood, the technology.
Are we talking about Screening Room now? Or are we talking about Star Wars? I'm trying to get you on track to talk about Star Wars.
Here's what I'm saying. We'll get into Screening Room later. But movies can't be either a great home experience or a great theatrical experience. You've really almost got to be one or the other. And yes, there are movies that we enjoy in the theater that we enjoy at home, and movies that we enjoy at home. Yes, you can enjoy, but either they excel in the one or they excel in the other. And Star Wars, especially this one, is clearly designed to kick fans with all of those referential moments, all of those kind of inside Star Wars meta moments where it just becomes this contagious roar in the theater. Yeah, right? Harrison Ford walks in, we're home, Chewie. Yeah, people scream. And it's like being a comedian and you leave room for the laugh. The movie leaves room for the cheers. And there are a lot of them. And when you're watching it sitting on your couch and those moments come, it loses a little something.
Well, you know what? I mean, I would make that argument less for this film than for your typical comedy. Like the way standard comedy is cut, it's cut with those moments in mind. And of course, you really don't get those moments when you watch it at home. However, I will say that the movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and as you know, Wade and I went to junior high school with JJ, and Wade.
Well, you went to junior high with him, and I know him have met him through Matt, and obviously,
And we have criticized him in the past, but I have to say that even though the movie has a certain amount of calculation in its script, as Wade was sort of alluding to, it's still a marvelously fun film. And not only is it marvelously fun, it also resets our expectation for the series.
Yes.
We feel like this series will go on now and probably be very good.
Yes.
Now, as opposed to the prequels.
Yes. I mean, it does what Lucas refused to do throughout the previous the 5 films that followed the original Star Wars, which is sort of retread anything, which is give in to, and I have to say, even though I don't like episodes 1, 2, and 3 I think is okay.
I like 3.
3 is fine, but even though I think they are largely failures, I do give him credit for really trying to invent an entirely new set of worlds and circumstances and characters every single time, to keep it fresh every single film, to not sort of go back to the same well and reference something, because that's easy. That's kind of easy to do.
Well, this whole screenplay is nothing but references to the other
nothing
films.
But referential. I mean, as people have pointed out many, many times, it almost clones, A New Hope. It almost clones the original Star Wars in numerous. You got the cantina, and you got the Daisy Ridley is basically Luke Skywalker scavenging for stuff, and BB-8 is C-3PO, and you got
Andrew Isaac is basically Harrison Ford, the roguish charming
pilot, and you got the message and the attack, and you put the thing in the robot and send the robot off.
But that's JJ's thing. But he did the same thing with Star Trek, which is that he's able to somehow create this new experience from old parts.
Yes.
Where the people recognize the old parts, and like the old parts, but they also appreciate the fact that it is new enough and feels new enough that it does really maintain some freshness.
It does indeed.
And so I thought it was terrific. And I have to say, before we go on, the Blu-ray is just fantastic.
It's
I mean,
it's the mix, especially, right? The audio is
the mix is beautiful
to die for.
And that's like all the fine grained textures on the clothing. You can see all that detail. When they walk into the Millennium Falcon, it's a little bit worn and weathered. You can see all the little pockmarks on the insides of the ship. I'm
going to go ahead and I'm going to say that it's interesting because this is actually this is where we're going to go with a lot of this. This as a Blu-ray on, I think, on most televisions, even on a 4K television, this upconverted is going to look better than most of the hastily dashed out official 4K UHD Blu-rays.
I wish they had. I wish somehow there was some arrangement that was made that they could. Because if you put this out on 4K, this would move copies. This would move TVs. This would move Blu-ray players. This would move, all updated HDMI cables and everything you need to get the 4K experience. This would move that.
If Sony owned this franchise, they would have done it. Disney has no vested interest in helping Sony out.
I know.
So anyway.
So it's beautiful. Flesh tones are great, and there's very few compression artifacts. There's obviously no print damage.
And
looks great.
Of course, you do get it with the Disney Anywhere code, so you can do your...
You can watch on your iPhone exactly as it was meant to be enjoyed.
Exactly.
Lots and lots of extras, by the way. There's like Secrets of the Force Awakens, which is like over an hour of stuff.
Oh yeah,
there's the table read. It's funny because
building BB-8.
Yeah,
putting the little robot. Yeah,
I have to say that it's also deleted scenes, by the way, which is something Lucas would never ever do. Deleted scenes. We had to wait 20 years before we saw that shot of the original Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah,
before he became a big blob.
Yeah.
But I have to say that although the John Williams one is great because he's John Williams, and I'll take whatever I can get from John Williams. Part of me almost thinks that there were too many extras, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. With something like Star Wars, I want to keep the mystique there a little bit. I don't necessarily need to know how everything was done because it takes some of the mystique away. That's just me. I know I'm in the minority, and I understand why there's all these extras, and they're terrific extras. But some of these I did not watch just because I feel like, you know what? I think the film is terrific. I think he did a great job in a very, very difficult assignment. I mean, JJ had to this movie had to be good enough to justify Disney's $4 billion purchase of Lucasfilm.
There's a lot riding on it. There's still a lot riding on
it.
It has delivered. Initially, but the rest of it'll all be for naught if the rest of the films don't deliver as well. I mean, episodes 8 and 9 have to deliver. Rogue One has to deliver.
But the spin-off ones, I feel, while they all have to be good, and after a while, we're all going to get sick of Star Wars movies because Disney will be shoving them down our throat every year, and we'll get tired of it.
Yeah.
The spin-off movies like Rogue One, I'm a little less... To me, I feel like those are almost like the Star Wars animated cartoon shows.
I hear you.
Where they're canon, sure, but... the expectation is not as high.
Well, so there it is. We love The Force Awakens. We think it's a great Blu-ray, terrific Blu-ray. I mean, it's just
absolutely,
it's great.
See, we're not haters, Wade.
Not at all.
Have we not proved
the action? And you know what? The flight stuff, the dog fight stuff, really good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's all really good. It looks beautiful, sounds beautiful. Yeah. Again, it's a terrific, crafty, detailed script that creates all new myths for the younger generation to enjoy while resurrecting the myths that we enjoyed as kids. It's a very crafty screenplay and very well done.
And speaking of resurrecting, here's the film that resurrected a 70mm film format that had not been around for over 50 years. And it was the nemesis, or at least it saw Star Wars as its nemesis over the holiday period because the director was actually visibly moved to tears because Star Wars and Disney were taking screens away from him. We're talking, of course, about Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight, which is out on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital, meaning ultraviolet. And here's, the Hateful Eight. And I think I've said this before. People like Quentin Tarantino and Spike Lee and a few others desperately need people to rein them in. They are amazing talents who are their own worst enemies when they are unbridled. and when they get to basically do anything that they want without anybody sort of tapping them on the shoulder and saying, I think it should be shorter. I think maybe that's 2 movies instead of 1. Just a little bit of judicious advice. And the Hateful Eight, remember he leaked the screenplay originally. And
the screenplay was leaked.
Well, the screenplay was leaked.
And he was not going to make the movie. He was so pissed off.
Do you think the screenplay was leaked without him knowing it? Do you think he leaked it?
I think it was leaked without him knowing it, because I think this guy is so proud of his writing, and he's won Oscars for his writing.
I always felt it was, a lot of people feel he did it, and that it was a publicity stunt to generate publicity for the movie.
So you're saying that it would get leaked. He would say, I'm not doing the movie.
Yeah.
The public would say, no, you got to do the movie. You have to do the movie. And then that would create some, generate some buzz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would he need that, though? Does he need that?
I don't know.
And did it help ultimately? By the way, this thing underperformed, so it did not help ultimately.
No, it did not. Well, here's the thing. Hateful Eight, of course, was shot in Ultra Panavision 70, which is not just old, 65 millimeter, 70 millimeter projected, widescreen format. It is an anamorphic 70 millimeter format, which means it's that you have to put these anamorphic lenses on the camera and on the projector so that you get an even wider image. It had not Khartoum back in whatever it was, 65 or 64 was the last film to actually use this. So I mean, even this format has not been seen in generations. And he and Robert Richardson went and resurrected it and got the old cameras and dusted them off and cleaned them up and shot this thing and gave us a 3-hour plus movie.
That was all shot in one location.
It was basically all shot in one room. and so to be honest too, look, Ennio Morricone, good on you. Go and get Ennio Morricone and get him an Oscar for it's a crap score. It's not a good score.
It's not a good score. Well, you know what? He admitted that he wrote his music without even seeing the film. He was just inspired by this and that, and then the music editor took what he wrote and made it into a score. It was not a great score. It was just the Academy's. They were either going to give it to Morricone or John Williams. But John Williams has won plenty of Oscars.
This is one of those cases where they did for a composer what they often do for actors, which is, okay, this is likely the last time that Ennio Morricone will be nominated for anything, so we'll give it to him now for everything he's done before, because everybody else here has either won or will likely have a chance to win again. So they gave it to him.
Sure,
he could have written like 6 minutes of hip hop for this thing, and they would have given him an Oscar. It anyway. So, but I mean, as for the movie itself, it's basically a kind of a standard Tarantino thing. It is long and indulgent, and it's got a lot of clever stuff in it, and it flips back and forth in time, and it plays with the format. Set right after the Civil War. I don't think we're telling anybody anything they don't already know. It's right after the Civil War, and it's a couple of bounty hunters. And in the blizzard, everybody holes up in this Minnie's haberdashery. And, of course, then the question is, who is not what they're pretending to be? Who's planning on double-crossing whom? What's the scam here? And it gets very Reservoir Dogsy all of a sudden. And then, you eventually fill in all the blanks. And it's a clever kind of a playful narrative with some good performances. Sam Jackson is great. Kurt Russell is great.
Everybody's fine.
Jennifer Jason Leigh is great. But it's 3 hours long. It doesn't need to be.
It's 3 hours of teasing and stretching this idea of who is the traitor and who is the killer. And and then finally, about half an hour before the end, it finally gets going.
Yeah.
When it comes to that little bit of kind of a fun conclusion.
I just
don't know that it's a particular evolution in the way that Tarantino directs or writes.
It should not have been an $80 million movie. It shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been a 3-hour, $80 million movie in Ultra Panavision. This should have been like a 110-minute movie shot in really good 35 and made for like $25 million or $20 million. And it would have been fine. It would have made more money.
It would have been the same film.
Would have been the same film. It didn't need all of this. And then they also, they had the same thing that afflicted the Revenant. They couldn't find snow. Both those movies were looking for snow, shooting at the same time of year, and they were both in Canada, and there was no snow in Canada, so they had to go find snow elsewhere. And of course, the Revenant went to Argentina, and I don't know where they went. But anyway, Hateful Eight, So, it got
bloated and it's self-indulgent,
but
and
it won
it's
an
got
Oscar.
some nice moments. And
It won an Oscar for Morricone, which is saying something. Anyway, not really many special features here, to be honest, which surprised me. It's just featurette stuff, and one of them is the Sam Jackson's Guide to 70 millimeter, which is everyone's seen it online already. So, I was surprised that there was not, at the very least, an extensive Robert Richardson featurette on the format where here are the cameras and here's what we did. You know what I'm saying? Like
of all the things you would, that's the
things,
selling point of the whole film.
Like, I would have expected that at the very least, like a 60-minute Robert Richardson hosted mini documentary about Ultra Panavision 70. Like, that's really, I would have loved that, but no such thing.
Hello, I'm Robert Richardson. So essentially, here's what you should do.
Yeah,
you should watch this film on your PlayStation 4, and then you should watch it at 1.5 speed. Because if you watch it at 1.5 speed, it'll go by 50% faster, and you can still understand all the dialogue. So that way, you get a 3.5-hour film in about let's say 2:45.
Okay,
you save a half an hour of your life.
Good call.
Wow,
let's do it.
Bravo. Do it now.
All right, carrying on. I can talk about Mojave now, or do you want to talk about something else?
I could talk about Tumble Down, which is kind of a surprise.
Tumble us down.
First-time director Sean Mushaw writes this film about this scholar played by Jason Sudeikis, who every once in a while does these dramatic-y films. I think he's pretty good. And he comes to, he's in Maine. He's interviewing this singer, and then they decide to write a autobiography together. And I kind of like this movie. This movie was light and it was fun, and it had a lot to say about the nature of loss and letting go. And there was a bunch of humor. It had a certain amount of heart. I felt it was kind of poignant. Tumble Down is good. Jason Sudeikis, he's developing as a dramatic actor. He's not a great dramatic actor. Rebecca Hall, I love Rebecca Hall. She's fantastic. She's great in everything. So she is terrific. It also features Blythe Danner and Griffin Dunn, who, that guy still gets work. Griffin Dunn, God love him. Anyway, so Tumble Down, if you want to check out kind of a romantic dramedy, more drama than comedy, I would think, that really has some kind of sweet and poignant things to say, I would check out Tumble Down. There's not a lot in terms of extras, because really, who cares? It's just a making of and something about the music, which is kind of a throwaway. But otherwise, Sean Mushaw, he can put together a good film. I like this movie. It's kind of cute. I like it. It's good.
Yeah, it's okay. You like it more than I do, but I do love Rebecca Hall. So I guess I'm more forgiving. But anyway, yeah. Jason Sudeikis, good. It's fine. Mojave.
He's married to Olivia Wilde.
Oh, that's
or
right.
something like that.
Yeah.
I saw Olivia Wilde at LACMA, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was during one of those live reads that Jason Reitman does.
Sure.
And Olivia Wilde, like when you see her on TV and in film, she's the most beautiful thing that ever existed.
Right.
I think I hit the mic.
That's okay.
She's the most beautiful thing that ever existed.
Right.
And then I saw her in person, and obviously she's magnificent. But I have to say, she has a huge Jay Leno chin.
Really?
You can tell by the pictures that she seems to have a very strong, square jaw.
Yeah.
She does in person. It's even squarer and square and
jawier
in person. But I'm being obviously cheeky and unfair because she's obviously magnificent.
So Mojave is an interesting little indie. Oscar Isaac signed up on this along with Garrett Hedlund, and it is Garrett Hedlund. I cannot look at Garrett Hedlund without feeling like he's Heath Ledger. I mean,
he wishes he was Heath Ledger.
But you know what I'm saying? It's just everything about him is so Heath Ledger-y.
Really?
Yeah, he just looks like him. He's got the mannerisms. It's weird.
His career's not really going.
It's not, but it's sort of the same way that I felt in the early days with Leonardo DiCaprio, where I just felt like he was this weird, creepy, sudden reincarnation of River Phoenix. Right? Did you ever feel like that?
Oh, Garrett Hedlund?
No, DiCaprio. That DiCaprio was a reincarnation of River Phoenix in a way.
I never put those two together.
Bit, it just.
How does Garrett Hedlund?
Because Garrett Hedlund to Heath Ledger, it's just I don't know. Somebody
I don't
dies.
know, man. I saw a lot of depth in Heath Ledger. I don't see that in Garrett Hedlund.
So Mojave is basically.
Why don't we just say that theory went nowhere?
Okay,
the bridge was out on the road.
So here's the deal. Garrett Hedlund plays this movie star who's just he can't handle his fame and success. He hates life, and he's out in the middle of the desert just trying to sort of figure it all out. And he's approached by this really creepy drifter dude with bad teeth, Oscar Isaac, who is messing with his head. I will leave it right there and tell you that this eventually becomes very Hitchcockian in the Strangers on a Train, and even almost Polanski-like. It gets very stalkery. And next thing you know, Oscar Isaac is like this psychotic mastermind who is going to unbelievable lengths to not leave Garrett Hedlund alone, and he's messing with his life in a profoundly disturbing way. The reason this thing works is not because it's a good story or anything. It's not particularly original. It's written and directed by William Monahan, who of course won an Oscar for The Departed, and it's fine. It's a fine script, and it's fine in every way, but it works because Oscar Isaac is so freaking good. Today is Oscar Isaac Day. He is so amazing in this. He's creepy. He's devious. He's this dejected genius, who knows that there's no reason why he should be homeless. It's like he's too smart for the world, and he's going to get back at everybody. He is as smart as he is lacking in ethics and morality. And
that's what they say about me. I'm as smart as I'm lacking in ethics and morality.
I know. I've heard that.
Wow.
Anyway, deleted scenes and a featurette, and that's all you get here. But you do get Ultraviolet, and you get the regular Blu-ray, and you get a ridiculous pull quote on the cover from somebody named Brett Arnold at Business Insider that says, "This thriller with a Star Wars star is a must-see."
It was allowed them to get the word Star Wars.
That's the only reason that pull quote is there, so that they have a quote that actually says Star Wars. People will see Star Wars. Oh, okay. Fascinating.
Speaking of nothing, The Hallow is a horror film that I actually kind of liked, and I'm not really a fan of these sorts of movies. It's directed by this guy, Corin Hardy, who is he's some sort of a visual artist, and this movie looks good. It's about this conservationist, and he's sent to Ireland. He's got a wife and kid, and they go into the forest to survey this forest, and of course there's locals, and the locals are crazy and superstitious, and there's demonic creatures. And I thought the performances were good. It's got an ecological theme, which certain segments of the world may not like. But then again, at least a horror film is trying something different, which I kind of liked.
Sure,
why not? And so I thought it was a horror film that had a little bit of something to say, and I thought it was well directed. I thought it was well shot. I think this thing is Corin Hardy. He might go on to do some other better things. And it's fairly scary. So The Hallow actually was a bit of a surprise, a little kind of a scary fantasy. Not Guillermo del Toro, because that's giving it too much credit, but in that kind of like, the low rent sort of Guillermo del Toro-y thing.
Of course.
The Hallow.
Yeah.
Now, we also have a movie that also tried to be something and didn't, but you kind of have to give it a little bit of credit, is this thing called #horror. And
it's not spelled hashtag. It's actually
tic-tac-toe.
pound. Yeah, the thing, the symbol,
the tic-tac-toe board,
the pound symbol,
which, by the way,
hashtag.
allows it to be like first in the horror section of the DVD store.
People have to, yes, exactly. People have to decide what we're going to call that symbol. Is it the tic-tac-toe symbol? Is it a number? Is it a number?
It's hashtag now.
It's hashtag. Is it number? Is it pound?
No, it's been totally. It used to be tic-tac-toe and used to be number. Now it's completely co-opted as
pound,
a hashtag.
But on the phone, it's like, please press the pound key.
No,
they still say that.
It is hashtag.
Okay.
What I liked about this film is that it sets up these. First of all, it's got a better cast than it deserves. It was directed by Tara Subkoff. She's an actress. She was in The Cell. And I like that it sets up these group of teens who are, they're addicted to their cell phones, they're privileged, and they're bratty. And so you kind of don't like them to begin with, but you feel like maybe there's some sort of comment that's being made on just how addicted teenage girls are to their phones or preteen girls are to their phones and what that means in terms of communication, getting along, and friendships. And of course, a lot of that stuff kind of goes away once you start getting into the talk about the horror and blood and bulimia. Bulimia is name checked here. So look, I mean, I think there's some good stuff as you kind of get to know these girls. I like that. I think that actually the horror stuff is kind of the least interesting part of it. But you got to give just like with the Hallow, you got to give Tara Subkoff credit for trying something new and interesting, even though it ultimately is okay.
Yuck. All right, so we got another 4K title this week, 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. And before I get into talking a little bit about Concussion, which I think is a very good film.
I think it's a good film, too.
I think it's a really good film. It's like 80%, 75% of The Insider, would you say?
Well, I revere The Insider.
The Insider is a masterpiece.
Yes.
It's extraordinary. This is to the NFL concussion thing what The Insider was to, obviously, tobacco and all of that. It's about, it's a whistleblower movie. It's basically somebody who says, I've got to tell the truth about this thing, and then the giant corporate machinery descends on them and makes their life miserable to try to silence them. And it's essentially the same trajectory, not quite as powerful, but awfully good. And Will Smith makes you forget that he's Will Smith very quickly.
You know what? He's very good in it. He really is.
Good.
I don't know whether it was the accent that allowed him to kind of like enter the character and kind of disappear more than he usually does. Because normally a Will Smith movie, he's Will Smith.
Yeah.
Whether it's Wild Wild West or whatever he's in, Independence Day, he's just Will Smith. Well, this is one of the first times I felt like he was actually... He took it seriously. He nailed the accent. He disappeared inside of it.
For about 2 seconds, I was like, "That's Will Smith doing a Nigerian accent. He's talking like this. He's Will Smith, and he's talking with a very strange Nigerian."
He was able to use that.
But you know what? Honestly, after about 2 seconds, I was in.
Yeah.
It took that long for me to just forget that he was Will Smith.
And this, of course, was during the Oscars So White controversy. And I have to say that if the film had done better and maybe made a bigger impact in terms of the NFL changing their rules, he would have been nominated for an Oscar. But the thing is that the film didn't do very well.
Well, the film didn't do very well, and the other thing is it was really, Sony did not do a very good job promoting it, frankly. They really didn't. They didn't heavily promote it to us. They didn't heavily promote it to other critics groups. They really didn't put it out there as an awards contender, which I find strange, but anyway. So here's the thing. There are two things about 4K titles that I'm finding very interesting going forward. One of them is that they have this. They're putting these little, almost a warning sign on the back that says, to play this back with HDR, you need a 4K UHD television with HDR, an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, and high-speed HDMI 2.0 cable. Now, that right there is a turnoff because people, obviously anybody who already has that system knows that. So what you're doing is you're sort of warning people away from buying this if they haven't upgraded their system yet. I don't know that that's going to encourage them to upgrade the system. I think that's going to make them just say, too much trouble, I'll buy the lower tiers. So I think you're almost building in an elitist notion about this. And the other interesting thing is, these come with a Blu-ray and with the 4K Blu-ray. So you get the two discs in it. So you automatically get the Blu-ray. But because so much of the capacity is dedicated to the movie, you can't put any extras onto a single 4K disc. So all the extras have to go on the Blu-ray. So yes, you can watch this amazing 4K resolution and kick-butt audio, and you can just get the full thing. But if you want to watch the extras, you still got to pop the disc out, put the Blu-ray in.
But so many of those extras were shot on, digital camcorder.
But let's say you want the commentary. You got the commentary with Peter Landesman, which is quite good actually. It's a very interesting commentary. You have to listen to that watching the movie in HD, not 4K.
Oh, so you can't access the commentary when you watch it?
Correct.
In 4K.
Correct.
Interesting.
So, anyway, but you get some featurettes and deleted scenes, and then obviously the commentary, all of which are attached to the Blu-ray, not to the 4K version, the 4K Blu-ray. So anyway, that is a conundrum that I'm not sure is going to continue to work out well for this. I think a lot of people are going to want to say, I want to watch the movie, and then I want to hear the commentary, and I don't want to have to put the Blu-ray in instead of the 4K. I want my commentary alongside the movie. and they got to figure out how they're going to do that, frankly. So anyway, but there it is. That's Concussion. And then we've also got an interesting little Canadian Western with Kiefer Sutherland and his dad, Donald Sutherland, who I think have only shown up in a movie together once before, maybe? Or is this the first time?
Star Wars?
Oh, there you go. Anyway, so this was at the Toronto Film Festival last year and got pretty good reaction. It's a Canadian Western, and, you know, anytime the Sutherlands show up in something, that's usually why, because they're Canadian and they can get Canadian money to make it work. So they'll go home and they'll make a Canadian film. Anyway, essentially, Kiefer Sutherland plays an ex-gunfighter who's hung up his guns, who gets drawn back in to pick him up and do, you know, it's that old thing. And, you know, he's the son of a reverend. Donald Sutherland plays a reverend who's been estranged from his son for many years and doesn't like the lifestyle that he turned to. And now he's trying, you know, it's that whole redemption thing. And then, of course, it always centers on some mad land baron or somebody who's trying to rip everybody off or control the town. And that, of course, is Brian Cox, who's great.
We love Brian Cox.
Love Brian Cox.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's a pretty standard issue Western. It doesn't do anything that we haven't seen that wasn't. I mean, this exact narrative was like, you know, every third or fourth Western in the 1950s and 60s, and it's been the subject of at least 3 or 4 in just the past 3 years. And it's fine. It's fine. I mean, it's nothing special, but it's competent.
Wade, we have a lot of stuff still to talk about. However, I have to say, why don't you tell people what I'm wearing?
Mark is wearing an official Mets jersey from the World Series. Yes.
Number
33.
Who is?
I don't know. Oh, dear. Here we go. Harvey. The giant rabbit?
No, it is the ace of our staff. Now, as we record this, the Mets are hours away from starting their 2016 campaign as they take on the Kansas City Royals in a rematch of last year's World Series, which I went to. I went to games 2, 3, and 4. I spent over $1,500 per ticket.
Madman.
To go to games 2, 3, and 4. And by the way, that does not include airfare. I had to fly there.
You
New
are
York,
a crazy man.
And hotel.
All right.
But that's how much I love the Mets. That's how much I like seeing the Mets break my heart in person, as opposed to seeing them break my heart on TV, which I will surely do tonight.
All right. Well, anyway, real quickly, 3 little movies that are on DVD. One is an interesting little indie called Dixieland, starring Chris Zilka, Riley Keough, or Koff. Don't know how that's necessarily. Keough, is it Keough?
Correct.
Faith Hill even pops in on this thing. This is just one of those little gritty indie romance things about a guy who's, who kind of messed up his life and wound up in prison, and he comes home and tries to, get his life straight and falls for this girl played by Keough, and it's sort of, how they sort of try to make their lives work and not get dragged down by all of their baggage and the horrible little town and the whole thing. I mean, star-crossed lovers, we've seen it a million times. This is from IFC. It's got an interesting commentary from the writer-director, Hank Bedford, and Chris Zilka, the actor. Some deleted scenes. Nothing really spectacular, but it's one of those little indies that makes you think, okay, fair enough. You got it done. You did well. You people have chops. You didn't totally screw it up, so you've earned the right to certainly step it up with the next film. Hopefully somebody will throw you a bone. So nothing great to say, but nothing bad to say either. It's tough to get a movie made, so good on them.
Wait, can I talk to you about a film directed by Declan Dale?
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to know why I want to talk to you about a film called Declan Dale?
Why?
Because Declan Dale does not exist.
Really?
Declan Dale is the Alan Smithy pseudonym that was taken by a director named G. Malik Linton.
No kidding.
In a film called Exposed. And this stars Keanu Reeves.
So is Alan Smithy officially retired?
I don't know. I'm not sure why. I wonder if it's a UK thing. I don't even know. Anyway, so Keanu Reeves, who has entered his Nick Cage phase, which means that he just sort of does stuff, and a lot of it winds up just dumped into straight to Blu-ray or straight to DVD or straight to whatever. Although I do love John Wick. John Wick, good movie. Sweet. Like that movie. Anyway, here he plays a police detective, and he meets this Dominican woman who is played by Ana de Armas, who was very good. Actually, they starred in another film earlier called Knock Knock, which is kind of an interesting movie. You should check out Knock Knock way before you check out Exposed. Anyway, so Reeves plays this detective who runs into this Dominican woman, and she thinks she sees ghosts and angels, and then she becomes pregnant, and then she believes that her pregnancy is kind of a bit of a miracle, and the family argues with her about it. It's just very silly, and I just think this thing is a total waste. I don't know what Keanu Reeves saw in this, But yeah, I would definitely pass on Exposed. But check out Knock Knock. Interesting movie. That Knock Knock movie.
So, Curveball is it's not great, but it's so-so. It's like good TV movie fare, sort of what it feels more like. Basically, the story of a guy who was baseball was always sort of his saving grace, and he's got a good best friend, and then the best friend starts to sort of drag him down into a bad lifestyle. And he's got to figure out how to pull himself out again. This is one of those sort of coming-of-age / redemption movies, and where what's more important, friendship or doing the right thing, blah, 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 blah. A lot of those sort of big ethical rainbows that bend themselves over the story. It's okay. Lynn Whitfield shows up in this, probably the most noteworthy name anywhere in this, and she's aging rather nicely, I have to say. I always liked Lynn Whitfield, but she deserves to be doing things better than just showing up as like moms and teachers and principals and
when you're a woman who gets to be a certain age and you look like her. I mean, she's a pretty woman, but I'm saying she looks very patrician a little bit. It's a bit of an authority figure.
I just get very worried now whenever I see a movie that says "and Lynn Whitfield." And Lynn Whitfield. It usually means, because now she's just trading on her name, and she's working for 3 days, and she's showing up, and she's taking a payday for basically a cameo, and she's a better actress than that. Anyway, and then this is a weird little movie, The Von Trapp Family: A Life of Music. If ever there was something you don't want to actually try to replicate, it's The Sound of Music. There's some things you just leave alone. And anyway, Agatha Von Trapp wrote a memoir about her, life before and after everything that takes place in The Sound of Music, and they decided for some strange, bizarre reason to actually make a movie of it, which is fine, I guess. It's not horrible, but it's just sort of why. The whole thing strikes you as, okay, so this is kind of not necessary. Matthew McFadden is maybe the most significant figure in this, and he's decent, but I really, really don't understand why this was made anyway at all. So anyway, if you feel like you didn't get enough Von Trapp story out of the Sound of Music, if you want something that's perhaps less overtly Broadway musical and has some nice scenery and maybe a little bit closer to historical accuracy, that matters to you, then I guess the Von Trapp Family: A Life of Music is your thing. Couple of featurettes, that's it. All right, Mark. Got a couple European MHZ titles here. MHZ, of course, does foreign language television, primarily cop television stuff. And Mammon is pretty great. Mammon is a fascinating conspiracy thriller that was really, really popular in its native Norway. This is almost about 6 hours long on 3 DVDs. So this is it's a long slog, but it's a really, really interesting. The procedural aspect of it really, really is incredibly engaging, and it's almost noirish at a certain point. Starts with a whole lot of, it starts with like political fraud and international banking, and eventually becomes a very, very creepy kind of a personal story. And it's, it's quite all encompassing, from the cops and the reporters and the whole thing. So it's really worth checking out. It's really, really solid stuff. I could see this thing probably getting remade here in a really bad way. And then much more my speed, which I think is one of the most interesting things that MHC has come up with, is the Heavy Water War. And this is really, really first rate. This is also Norwegian. This is significantly shorter. This is a little bit over 4 hours, just shy of 5 hours long, also on 3 DVDs. And this is a story that has been told in such a stupid way so many times. I think there was even a Hogan's Hero episode where they were trying to prevent a delivery of heavy water. This is, as everybody I think probably knows, the Nazis were trying to develop the atomic bomb as well during World War II. So it wasn't just that we had the Manhattan Project going and we were just waiting to see how long it would take us to get it. There was a race to get the atomic bomb. The Nazis were working if they had gotten it first, game over, right? I mean, then you're dropping atomic bombs on New York and on London and on every major city of every country. Next thing you know, Germany controls the world, and Japan obviously, and Germany would probably bomb Japan after that. So there was an active effort to prevent Germany from getting the atomic bomb, and that is what the Heavy Water War is all about. And it starts in 1933 and moves through the years, and it's really quite amazing. It's very all encompassing, and it's a really well written and really well executed drama. And I think this is just a diamond for people to discover. Do not let this one pass. The Heavy Water War is a really, really, really cool miniseries.
Look at you, Wade.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I watched a documentary about a guy I knew nothing about, and music I don't even like. But I like this documentary. It's called El Camino Mas Largo. And here's the deal. There's a guy named Enrique Bunbury. Now, when your name is Bunbury, already, you're already a little strange. And this guy in 2010, he's big in Latin America, and in 2010 he played this huge show at Azteca Stadium in Mexico. He became like the first Spanish solo artist to perform a concert in front of 90,000 people in Latin America. And so based on this success, a few months later, he decides to tour America. Because it's funny with music where you feel as if overseas musicians feel that they haven't made it till they've made it in America. They all feel that way. Actors too. So this guy decides to go on a tour of America, and El Camino Mas Largo is all about this guy's tour of the United States. And I liked it. What I liked about it is that it allows you to experience American culture in towns like Miami, New Orleans, from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And this guy is a bit of a character with his red tie, and he's got big oversized gestures and whatnot. And I thought it was great. The concert footage was very good. The interviews were good. Again, I enjoy the fact that I got to see parts of America from a different perspective. And I liked El Camino Mas Largo. So if you like Spanish rock music, which I don't, but you want to see an interesting little travelogue film, and by the way, there's cats in it. There's a cute white cat. He's a white cat. He's very cute. I forgot his name. But I would like that white cat, but I'm probably not going to ever get that white cat because it belongs to people in the movie. Anyway, good film, surprising little find, little gem, El Camino Mas Largo.
So I want to make a quick mention of a whole bunch of titles from Indican. We have not covered any Indican titles for years. I don't know how that got disrupted, but we have found each other again, and I want to give a shout-out to a few things from Indican because they're a really good little distribution company, theatrically and on DVD. And a lot of interesting and diverse stuff. So give a little shout out to them. I got a little horror film here called Deadly Famous, which is it's chilling and thrilling as they should be. Got a film called Hot Water, which is really quite an interesting documentary for people who have it's a a conscience and environmental documentary, and the filmmakers basically go on kind of a cross country tour looking for basically dealing with water contamination and all of the different things that contribute to it, from uranium mining and all this other stuff. So I mean it's a little depressing, but it's actually quite good, and a pretty committed bunch of people. A weird little comedy called Silent But Deadly from a filmmaker named Jason Lockhart, who I think could be doing bigger stuff. This is almost an exploitation comedy, but it's got a weird cast and some very, very strange scenes in it. So not bad. A Reason is actually quite a good film. Made the tour of a lot of different festivals and was very well received in all of them. And it's just basically a solid family drama. Can't really tell you much more than that. An action film called Downshift. Get through these as quickly as I can. Interesting thriller called Blood and Circumstance, which is based on a novel by Frank Turner Holland. Let me get to here. Strangely in Love, which is a modern-day take on Dostoevsky's White Nights. Did you ever read White Nights?
I did not. Look what I'm about to read.
1984. 4.
So get this.
That's a little out of date, don't you think?
So I have this beaten up dog-eared copy of Brave New World.
Yes.
And it came out when NBC did a miniseries with Keir Dullea and Marcia Strassman.
Yeah.
Right? The wife from Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah.
That's how lame it was.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? This thing's been staring at me for years. I'm going to read this thing. And I did, and I loved it. I'd never read Brave New World.
It's great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now this I had read years ago, but they had this new one in the bookstore, and I decided to reread it.
So before I finish the last few films here from Indican, aren't you amazed with all of the junk that Hollywood keeps remaking and rebooting? Aren't you amazed that nobody? I mean, there was a Brave New World television movie, kind of
that was the one
mid-90s.
That was the one with Keir Dullea and Marcia Strassman.
Yeah. So, but there's another one too.
There is.
Yeah, there's another one.
Hang on.
There's another one. There was another Brave New World. That was like the last one that they did.
Movie from 1980 and 1988. Now, the one in 1980, that one starred. That's my book cover. Yeah, the one from 1980 has my book cover in the.
Okay.
Although I threw it away because it was so dog-eared. Bud Cort as Bernard Marx.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, bottom line, aren't you amazed that as much as they have rebooted and rehashed, that over the past just the last 10 years, that nobody has bothered to say, you know what, we could do a pretty amazing, big, blockbustery Brave New World?
I know. I was reading it going...
it screams.
This movie, this book, it's like the network of books. Like, Network is still an amazing movie, even though a lot of it is lost on modern audiences in terms of how prescient it was. Brave New World, same thing. Make another one. Be awesome.
It would be unbelievable.
So there was one in 1998 with Leonard Nimoy as Mustafa Mons.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Leonard Nimoy, every non-Spock movie he does, he's the best because he's got that weird look. Yeah. He's got that alien kind of look to him.
Because he's Canadian.
I know.
That's what it is.
No, because you're Jewish. That's what you really want to say, isn't it?
I just want to make fun of Canadians.
Okay.
Anyway, then also from Indican, a creepy kind of supernatural thriller called the Sideways Light. Definitely worth checking out. A movie that I was shocked. I actually watched about 15 minutes of this, and I've got to watch the rest of it. It's great. Eternity, the movie. This thing's a riot. It's just so cheesy and so ridiculously silly. This is like a cheesy 70s and 80s. It's just I don't even know how to explain this. It's like if somebody went back and decided to make a cheesy 70s and 80s like disco rollerblading, all the kits from that era, and just ram it into one movie and just really amp it up, like Spirit of 76. It's kind of that same vibe. Anyway, so definitely check that out. By the way, did you see Everybody Wants Some?
I did.
What'd
see
you
it.
think? Yeah. Okay.
Here's
Fair
the
enough.
thing. Here's my opinion about the new Richard Linklater film.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Star Wars or Star Trek reboot where it has the bones and the echoes of this other thing that we love, and it tries to update it. And I feel like Richard Linklater is now 55 years old. I sort of feel like the movie was a little overwritten and too perfect, and the characters were a little too smart.
I feel that way about almost all his films from the past 20 years.
Who was that guy Finn, who was like the philosopher on the baseball team? The guy talks like nobody I've ever met.
By the way, let me finish off the last of these. A Bit of Bad Luck, which has Terry Polo and Carrie Elwes, and not much else going for it. Another little horror thing, Windsor Drive, which I did not have a chance to look at, but I'm just going to give a quick mention. Another one that I did not have a chance to watch, Me, You, and $5. Looks like an interesting little comedy. B-Boyz, which is, it's a dancing thing. And then lastly, Butterfly Girl, which has gotten some very, very good reviews, and I did not have a chance to watch this either, but looks like an interesting thing to check out. So anyway, Indican is back on the radar, and I've always liked them as a company. I think they're a really solid company, so go check out some of their stuff.
Wait, we have
by the way, Superman, Batman.
Yes,
almost 70% drop off.
How
insane is that?
Here's the thing.
That's almost Fantastic Four drop off.
Well, I have to say a lot of blockbusters drop off in that high 60s, low. A lot of them do. But what's interesting is that
huge.
No. You need to look at the Friday to Friday number. The Friday to Friday number, right?
That was like 80%.
It dropped 81%.
That's huge.
81% is embarrassing.
Yeah.
70, it's like, okay, when you come out with 166 million, you're going to drop a lot. But 81 million drop from Friday to Friday. That just says that, you know what, the rank and file moviegoer, as I think I said on Facebook, they don't like it. The fanboys binged, and that's it.
I could have told him that.
But in the end, here's the thing. But you know what's funny is that the studios are so deluded. They'll be like, well, who cares? Look at the bottom line. We've made $250 total. We've made $500 million globally. It's a hit. It's a great film. Go, Zach, go. In the meantime, it's just embarrassing to me. Anyway, we have 8 movies on 2 DVDs. And if you buy any of these from Mill Creek, I'm going to personally come to your house and kill you.
Because this is the whole multi-disc thing. If you don't have a lot of money and you just want to, I don't know, you get there's a couple of decent films in there.
No, there's decent films in both of these, but one is called the Romance 4-in-1 Collection, which includes the Scarlet Letter, Feast in July, Washington Square, and Jefferson in Paris. Now, Jefferson in Paris and Feast of July, I mean, that's Merchant Ivory time. Jefferson in Paris was a highly anticipated but a bit of a failure, directed by James Ivory.
Jefferson in Paris was also after they had their big Oscar-nominated streak with Remains of the Day and all the what else? Howard Zand and Room with a View. They got a Disney deal. And that was the first film out of the Disney deal. And it was kind of a stinker because the Disney didn't really want them. They wanted their notoriety, and it didn't really work out. But anyway.
Then there's also the Thriller 4-in-1 Collection, which includes Playing God with Angelina Jolie, Before and After with Meryl Streep and Liam Neeson, The Rich Man's Wife with Halle Berry, and then the only one that matters, Veronica Guerin with Cate Blanchett, because everything Cate Blanchett does matters, because I love her.
It's really good, actually.
That's a good movie. That's a good movie.
I mean, there have been a few films on Veronica Guerin's whole thing. She's, the Irish journalist who went after, among other people, the character that Brendan Gleeson plays in
Star Wars.
No, in the John Boorman film, about the yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Famous gangster.
Hang on, don't stop the recording.
Yeah.
God, we're getting old. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson, John Boorman.
Yada.
It's gonna kill me when it pops up.
Yes, it will.
The General.
Oh,
I love that movie.
So,
by the way, go rent The General. That's a good movie. The General's a good movie.
It is a good movie. So Veronica Guerin basically was one of the journalists who tried to take down The General. So it's a kind of a different take on that. But anyway, there have been a few other films that deal with the story. Joan Allen was in one that I thought was very, very good as well. So anyway, all right, Mark, let's hit some classic stuff. Let's go into catalog titles for the little time that we have left. I got a stack of interesting little one-offs here. One from Shout Factory. Dude, do you remember the Gong Show movie? Do you seriously remember they made this?
Yes.
I had totally forgotten that the Gong Show
100%.
movie existed. Oh my gosh. Shout Factory just...
And by the way, Gene the Dancing Machine, he died recently.
I know. Well, this is just weird. Of course, I love the George Clooney film, all about Chuck Barris.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, with Sam Rockwell. Just an amazing performance. It should have been Oscar nominated. Should have won. The Gong Show movie, just one of the strangest things ever created. I just can't believe they made this into a movie. I still, in hindsight, it just brings it all back. Nothing on this Blu-ray other than an audio commentary with pop culture historian Russell Dyball, which is really good, just the same. I mean, it really contextualizes everything wonderfully, and it's just a strange movie, man. It is so strange. And what's really, really bizarre is I didn't even realize who co-wrote this. Do you know who co-wrote this with Barris?
I do not.
Robert Downey Sr.
Awesome.
I mean, which is, of course, Robert Downey Jr.'s dad, who was a bit of a B-movie filmmaker in his day as well.
But that says trippy and cool to me.
But
Robert Downey Sr., says this is not a normal film.
This is not a normal film. This is just such a strange movie. Anyway, check it out. It's one of those cultural artifacts that just belongs to a certain era, and you'll go nuts. You'll go nuts watching it. You won't believe it exists. The Arrow collection that is released through MVD continues to amaze me with some of the cool stuff they pull out. They, of course, have released a lot of really great B-movie and exploitation and blaxploitation titles, and this is one of the all-time best blaxploitation titles ever. It's really almost transcends blaxploitation. This is Black Mama, White Mama with Margaret Markoff and Pam Grier, one of the coolest Pam Grier performances ever. And essentially, this is the idea here is that it's a little bit like The Defiant Ones, the old Stanley Kramer movie, and it sort of takes The Defiant Ones and drops it into a women in prison thing with a racial aspect, and you come up with a movie that really, for everything that went into it, should not be as cool as it is, but it is. And, you have a couple of escaped female convicts, one black, one white, and that's like a perfect kind of a desert island scenario to explore all kinds of really great cultural and racial aspects from the era. It's cool. DVD and a Blu-ray included in this, and it looks great. The transfers are fantastic. And then 3 other films here on Blu-ray to make mention of, super fast. Ken Loach film called Blackjack, which is a kind of one of the lesser-known Ken Loach films, actually, on a Blu-ray from Cohen. This is an adaptation of the Leon Garfield novel. It is not at all what you would normally expect from Ken Loach, and it's a nice rediscovery. This is like from the late 70s, and a pretty decent family film, which I can't really always say about Ken Loach movies. And then the sexploitation film Felicity, which is out now from Severin on Blu-ray. I don't need to actually tell you what Felicity is all about. It's dirty, but it's dirty in a late 70s kind of a way, which is to say that it's sort of not that dirty anymore. And then from Milestone, a really, really great release. I'm so glad that they do this. The people at Milestone, I just love those guys. I really do. Dennis and Amy just keep really doing such great work. It's a real passion project for them. This is the Kathleen Collins film Losing Ground in a 2-disc deluxe edition. This is one of the significant early to mid-'80s films that sort of represented a renaissance in black female directors. And it's just a wonderful personal story about a really interesting couple. The woman is a professor of philosophy. Her husband is a painter. And it's a really interesting look at a relationship, beautiful and tender and very accomplished. And the most tragic part of this is that Kathleen Collins, who wrote and directed it, of course, she died 6 years after the movie was made, died of cancer. So I'm glad that they're calling attention to this film again. It's really, really a good film.
That's right, Chunky Love.
Chunky Love? I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about Marion Davies.
That's what you're talking about.
So a couple from Warner Archives. One is a film that deserves to be rediscovered, a little piece of film history, Not So Dumb, which, by the way, is not the story of my life. My story is called Yes, He Is That Dumb.
Yeah.
Story of my life. Anyway, Marion Davies was a great silent film actress, but she did wind up doing sound, and she was a little bit nervous about doing sound because a lot of actors back in the day were worried about doing sound. However, one of her first sound films was Not So Dumb, and this thing is pretty funny. It was directed by King Vidor, of course, and Marion Davies, if you don't know who she is, she was the one who... She was one whose career was sort of like taken over by William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper publisher and tycoon, and that was kind of interesting. And he loved seeing her dress up in beautiful gowns, and
it was a creepy relationship.
It was a creepy relationship, but Not So Dumb is not so dumb is more in the comedy vein. It's maybe one that I don't know that Hearst necessarily signed off on, but. Anyway, it's kind of a bit of a screwball comedy type thing, and it's based on a play co-written by George S. Kaufman, and it's good stuff. It really deserves to be rediscovered. Marion Davies, Not So Dumb. Also, we have Brotherly Love. This is with Peter O'Toole. I was not a huge fan of this movie hang on. Scratching something on my eye. Something in my eye.
Do it.
There's nothing in my eye now.
Okay.
I can put my glasses back on. Anyway, so it's Peter O'Toole and Susanna York. It's a comedy. It's kind of a tragedy, and it's got some really creepy overtones because it's about a brother who kind of loves his sister, and it kind of really treads on some interesting ethical waters. So Brotherly Love, a movie that maybe its title hits it on the head a little bit too hard, is okay. I don't know that I necessarily would want to watch this again. Also, we have very interesting. Michael Collins is finally out on Blu-ray. Has this been on Blu-ray before?
No.
Huh.
No.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. I love this movie.
I love this movie too,
except for Julia Roberts, who I don't think is very well cast in it. But,
no, because you know what? Look, it was whatever it was. It was like 1990 something, 1998 when this thing came out. 1996 when this thing came out. So if it's 1996 and Julia Roberts wants to do your movie.
Yeah, you do it.
You do it.
Yep.
Anyway, this is all about Michael Collins, but this is a very specific time in his career as he's obviously the Irish revolutionary, and he was trying to rip Ireland away from Great Britain.
One of the best things Neil Jordan ever did as a director. I mean, it's really accomplished. It's a
very accomplished film. It's intelligent, and there's a lot of pain in this film that's really interesting to kind of look at. And Liam Neeson is just magnetic, and it's very ambitious. I thought it was very satisfying. I liked it a lot. Neil Jordan's Michael Collins.
Agreed. Very good. And then I've got a bunch here from the MOD lines over at MGM and 20th. Final Combination is a so-so cop thriller with Lisa Bonet and Michael Madsen from 1994. He's basically, a cop, and he's looking for a rapist and a killer. It's all right. Legend of Custer. Man, there have been so many movies about Custer. This is a really unusual 1967 movie with not a lot going for it, to be honest. Two different directors, Sam Wanamaker and Norman Foster, and kind of a strange, convoluted post-Civil War look at Custer and this ragtag 7th Cavalry Regiment that he had put together. It's kind of a middling Western, but I guess as a curiosity, it's got something going for it. Here is a weird movie, man. We talk about Michael Cimino a lot because his career just befuddles us, and he as a personality just mystifies us. He's just one of those strange, enigmatic. Just you can't get a beat on him, right? He's here, and then he looks like this, and then he makes this movie, and then he goes away, and he's just you can't get him. You can't peg him down. Cimino made this movie called Sun Chaser in 1996, which
now that was pretty much his last film, was it not?
Pretty much, yeah. Unless
now Year of the Dragon was.
That was before.
Before that, I think Sun Chaser was like his last
official movie. Yeah. And it's not bad, but it's also not good. Charles Levitt wrote it, and it's an okay script. I mean, Woody Harrelson, and I mean, it's got some credentials. Maurice Jarre's score that's perfectly fine, one of Maurice Jarre's last scores. Shot by Doug Milsome, who did Full Metal Jacket. I mean, this is not a bunch of slouches, but it's kind of like, all right, well, whatever. It's one of those kind of, I've lost my life and I'm looking to sort of find meaning in life, and the idea here is that Woody Harrelson is an oncologist of all things, and he has this patient who kidnaps him. And then it becomes this weird kind of road trip into Native American lore, and it's a very strange, odd, unusual movie. But anyway, it's not bad. It's just sort of one of those films you kind of scratch your head and you wonder what attracted everybody to this. Then there's also That Night with Juliette Lewis and C. Thomas Howell, which one of those set in 1960, one of those throwback 1960s era. It wasn't made in the 1960s; it was made in 1992. But it sort of has that whole nostalgic 60s era romance thing going to it. And then lastly, a film that I think is one of the most underrated films ever made. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's just unbelievably true. Chris Manguise, who won an Academy Award as a cinematographer of The Killing Fields, and then briefly had a directing career before he just couldn't get movies made as a director anymore, so he went back to being a DP. But, he made a number of really decent films as a director. And the one that completely got crapped on was Second Best. And it makes me mad, because I still remember the entire issue around this film. This was made in 1994. And, I'd been a film critic for a couple of years already, and I'd been looking forward to this, the new Chris Manguise film. I kid you not, Warner Brothers released this movie in one theater for Academy consideration for literally 1 week right before the end of the year, and that was it. And it was done, and it was buried. They had no confidence in this movie at all. And it was so upsetting, and they didn't promote it. They did nothing. It was just sort of like there was an obligatory qualification run, and this kind of sank Chris Manguise's career in many respects. And the story here is basically William Hurt is this very introverted single man, who adopts the son of a domestic terrorist. It's set in the UK. I won't give you any other details about it. And it's about the relationship between this man and this boy who knows that, he's a pubescent boy. I mean, he doesn't want to be adopted, but his father's a fugitive, and so he's basically been put up for it. And it's a really fascinating dynamic. It's a really good movie, based on a novel and scripted by the novelist David Cook. And I just think this is such a good film, so well done, so interesting. And it's been on DVD before, and it's finally out again in MOD. And it's just so upsetting to me. But anyway, it's part of the Regency collection. Regency obviously now has got all their rights back from the studios who originally released a lot of these things. So there you go.
Thank you, Wade, for bringing up a little-known gem, resurrecting it, making us care.
Yes.
Anyway, we got a couple from the good folks at Kino Lorber. We have 2 World War II films. One is James Cagney in The Gallant Hours. He plays Admiral Halsey. This one was directed by Robert Montgomery. Kind of interesting. Robert Montgomery, of course, is an actor, and he did direct a couple films, and this would be one of them. This happens right before the Battle of Guadalcanal. And what's interesting about, by the way, Dennis Weaver is also in this, looking so young. What I liked about this film is that it has a certain kind of like semi-documentary feel to it. You would think that even though Robert Montgomery is an actor, he would want something very actory and dramatic and very fictional seeming, but there's some kind of semi-doc looking shots to this film and approach to this film that I kind of like. So this is not bad. And then there's Gregory Peck in The Purple Plain. Not one of my favorite Gregory Peck films. Directed by Robert Parrish. Decent cast, but still Purple Plain, not one of my favorite Gregory Peck movies. The best film that Kino Lorber releases this week, wait, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
It's the year 2010. And the United Nations, they have decided to send a team of astronauts to Uranus.
Well, there you go.
Now, when the astronauts land in Uranus,
yes,
they find an amazing land filled with voluptuous women. Because this, ladies and gentlemen, is Journey to the Seventh Planet, a film from 1962, directed by Sidney Pink. It is awesome. When I say awesome, I mean awesomely bad, and yet awesomely good at the same time. Good stuff. Journey to the Seventh Planet. Great, cheesy sci-fi.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. We will see you guys next week.